that want to see updates on the time card, I'm going to go over that first so that we can get you back to work. And then from there, I'll go into the time approval page. And then for any payroll administrators, I will go into some of the settings that have been updated and show you a few things on the setup side of hh2 Remote Payroll. What I want to do is I'm on one of our demo sites. I'm going to go into the timesheet right now. I'm logged in as a basic crew manager, foreman, superintendent, whatever you want to call that title. I'm going to go into remote timesheet. Now the skin has stayed the same for most of you that are that have been on one of our newer versions of payroll. This skin should be familiar to all of you. So we're just going to go ahead and right on the house button or the home button, we're going to click on the first link, Remote Payroll Timesheet. Now some things that should be noted here and that you should see right up front is that the icons have all changed. We've got a more of a sleeker look here. We've also got a lot of the icon shortcuts that were previously shared up at the top. They're now in a condensed format. They're in what looks like a drawer. If you click the plus more buttons or just the more icons, they'll expand out and you'll see additional items that are on the timesheet. All of the items that you previously had on your current version of payroll are located in here now. This is just to clean it up, clean the time card up, and only display what's needed. Also provide more room for the employee name, and also this new feature, which is a employee photo. A lot of people have asked us why we are using employee photos now, and we've just done some studies and found that managers and payroll administrators can easily relate with people based on an image. Also, for those of you that have multiple employees with the same last names or first names, last names, the photo comes in handy rather than just referring to the employee ID. So if you're an employee logging in or a manager, you can upload your photos right at the top here. If you haven't done that yet, we would encourage all of you guys to use that. You can just click on your employee icon and just say change my photo. This will just allow you to come in, upload a photo from the folder icon here, save it, and that's going to appear at the top of the timesheet. We're on a weekly view right now, so for many of you that switch to a daily view, that is located by clicking on the weekly icon. As soon as I do that, it expands out and gives me the option to go between weekly and daily. So that's how you guys switch between the two formats now. It's just click on the either the weekly or the daily view, and it pulls out the side menu where you can select your option here. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the daily view. We have our date box. Nothing's changed there. Although when I do click on the calendar icon, you can see that we've updated some of the menus here. And then we also have our pay ID sets here. Now in many of our drop-down menus, when you click on the lookup menus, the magnifying glass, we've gone to this grid type system here. So you can see the pay ID sets along in a grid, and they'll continue to row out like you see here. Our jobs and our cost codes on the timesheets do the exact same thing. So you'll see that in a moment. Much faster. The pick lists are much quicker than the current views that you guys currently have. And we can just alternate between the pay IDs the exact same way as before. We just click on them, and it's going to go ahead and switch the pay IDs that are shown on the time card. Some other things to be aware of here is the options like members, adding and removing employees. That is located in this side menu here. And just a tip and a trick for all of you, you have a settings wheel, and there's a most frequently used icon at the top right of the time card. If you want to change this to be your members icon so that you can quickly access that without having to click to expand it and then click on it, we can go in and we can favorite the members button to make that our quick access icon up here at the top. And so the way that I do that is I just click on settings, and instead of having my primary button be the refresh timesheet, I can switch that and make it manage group membership. So by doing that and closing this out, if I do a refresh now up at the top of my time card, you'll see that that frequently used button here has now changed to the members, and that's something that many of you may want to change, especially if you're entering in time for lots of employees where they're coming and going, and you need to go in and add and remove employees. You can quickly access that primary button there and come in and assign or unassign your employees. So your drop-down menus now, instead of highlighting on the different icons to activate people or unchecking them, we have now plus and X buttons over here. So if I want to assign people to my crew, it's going to show me all of the people I do not have assigned down below. I can also filter on that here. I can filter on inactive employees or all employees or just my active ones. But I would just go through and just click all the way down and find my employees that I want to add to the crew. The other thing that I can do too is I can search for an employee name up at the top here. So if I search by part of the employee ID or part of the first or last name, we can find employees that way. All right, and then just hit the plus button to add them. I can backspace this out and hit enter to go back. So it's showing all of my assigned and all of my unassigned down below. When I'm done, I just close that out. So that's a little bit different. We find that it's much faster now. You can also see the employee photos appearing at the top along with their ID and then their full name underneath, rather than going vertical like it was before. This just allows us to provide more room for more data. Another thing that we did with your employees as managers that you would want to be aware of is that we've also started capturing some of the basic defaults from the employee record. So we have a phone number now, an email address, a hire date, and then their default certified class. Anything that's defaulted, we're not going to show pay or anything personal, but we are going to show a default certified class or any of their default union information, a hire date, and then a phone number, so that if you do need to get a hold of your employees for any reason, you can do that. And you can access this just by clicking on their icon, and it will show all those defaults here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Your other buttons that you have are on this next line item down, your clear, autofill, move, copy. None of these buttons have changed. These are all of the same as before. And we've just like I said, we put them in a drop down just to clean the time card up, and that's just going to free up a lot of room and make things much nicer to view as a manager or as an employee. Down at the bottom, we have our comments still. When you click on the comments, they've been updated. Got a little bit different format here, but you're still going to enter in the comments the same way. You'll still go in and put your cursor in the box to key in the time. So nothing's changed there. And we've also updated the colors now. So the ready time, the time that's ready for you to approve as an employee or as a manager, is now gold. It used to be blue. We've changed that from blue to an orangish, goldish color here on the side. So be aware of that. When time has been approved at your level, it turns green, just like before. So gold and green. We can come in here, we can use the reclaim option to bring this time back. Still going to show our totals down at the bottom here. Another big change is the add jobs and codes to timesheet. We've changed this up to make it easier for you to add your jobs and your codes. And a new change that you'll appreciate is that we do have an option to require a cost code to be used anytime a job is selected. I don't have it turned on in this demonstration. I did that for a reason, because I'm going to show all of you guys as administrators how to go in and turn that on, and then I'll show you a sample of what that does. But now, for those of you that have had issues where people have coded to a job but forgot to add a cost code, and they've added that to their timesheet with time, and it's been rejected in the Timberline because the cost code was missed, we're going to be able to prevent that. So I'll show you how to go and turn that on. Job selector now, as I mentioned before, we've gone more to a grid view here. So we can go in and actively search our jobs by typing in part of the job name or number. When I select the job, if I click on the header here at the top of the card that you see, it just highlights that job, and then I can come down and I can fill out the other information. So some of you aren't using GLs or departments or certified classes, but you would just work your way down the same way as you're doing it now with your coding. You would just want to make sure that you select a job that has some codes tied to it. Let me select this job. I know it has some codes in here. So the way that I go in and I add my codes is I just click on them. You can see that they're now activated, and I would just say add selected items. You can see a preview on the side now here, which is handy. And if I want to add another batch of another job or additional codes, this new batch option replaces the plus more button in your selector. So you can click on that. It automatically added our jobs and our cost codes that we had previously selected to the time card. Now I can go back in and select another job and the codes, come in, select them, and if I'm done, I can just hit add to timesheet. So much quicker on the pick lists, and we think you'll appreciate the enhancement on performance there. So that's pretty much it for the time card, guys. Again, just if you're trying to find where that daily icon is, just make sure that you click on the weekly icon here. That's just something that we've had a lot of questions on. Just click on that to switch between the two views. All right, now what I'm going to do for those of you that would want to stick around and see the time approval screen, I'm going to go in and show that. Also, for any of those of you that are leaving the call now that have seen some of the updates on the time card, I want to point out that we do have a handout in our GoToMeeting bar. There are 2 attachments. They're PDFs. Be sure to download those. We'll also make them available afterwards, but one's an export labor screen that I'm going to show on the new export view, and then also the time entry screen. I'm going to pull that up just so that you guys can see it. Dennis Doherty, our director over marketing, has done a fantastic job with pointing out some of the new shortcuts and hotkeys on the new time card. So for any of you that are coding time, you may want to download this and just refer to it or pass it out to anyone in the company. So go ahead and download that in the attachments area on the side panel of GoToMeeting. Close that up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and log out now here, and I'm going to log in as a payroll administrator. And we're going to go to the time approval screen. The time approval screen has got some major updates to it as well. Much cleaner, bigger icons. One of the biggest enhancements that we made on this screen was that you were previously limited to 8 pay ID sets, and now we've opened that up to having unlimited pay ID sets showing up in your time approval screen. If you have quite a few pay ID sets that you use, and we have companies that have, I have one company that uses close to 100 different pay IDs. So for a company of that size that uses lots and lots of pay IDs, you're going to like that new enhancement. of being able to see all of the different pay IDs that have been coded to in a pay period now. We're not limiting you on that. Also, all of the employees that are loaded up on the grid here, or in the view, the slider view, they instantly pop up now. We've been able to do some things with the engineering of the site to make this automatically load up, so that you're not waiting on load times with the server to pull up employees or additional jobs or cost codes. Are already there. So it's the transition as you're sliding up and down in your time approval view, and as well as on the time cards, is going to be much quicker. You also have the filters have changed up at the top. Instead of a drop down, we just automatically put the promote, approve, and reclaim buttons up at the top. You've also got your lock button here. The filters icon, same filters as before. So you can filter on start and end date. Your time status is here, no time, unapproved, ready, or approved time. You can filter on job or job extra, pay groups. When you're filtering on these options, you just have to hit apply filters to filter here. You've got your calendar lookup menu to put in your week, or select your week, your pay period end dates. One of the new changes that we made is we actually have an option now to go from a weekly view to a bi-weekly view. So I'm going to show you that in a moment. But when you're reviewing your time entries in here, just make sure that you're on the right week. Notice that there isn't any future weeks in here. We have that available in a drop-down menu now. So if you come over to the side, future pay periods, when you select that, you've got your future week showing up down below. So you're going to be able to come in here, just select the week that you want to review. I'm going to go ahead and just select the current week. There's an option in the system now to have this default to the prior week, always default to the prior week, or to the current week. You can change that in your settings. The other thing that's changed, if we go in and we enter in some time here, I'm just going to quickly put in some mock time, just so we have something in here to look at. Let's go in, select a code or two, and I'm just going to quickly key in 40 hours worth of time. If I go back into my time approval screen in here, I'll point out some of the new icons that you're seeing up at the top. So the quick view, which is represented by the eyeball icon here, that's changed. When you click on it now, we've condensed the two screens that you previously had before. You have your complete detailed view here, and then a summary by pay ID down below. So you don't have to toggle between those two views. They're all combined into one. We also have your approval log over here on the side now. The thumbs up icon where it says approval log is going to give you all of your date stamps. Let's go in and approve this time just so you can see what it looks like. So now if I come in here and I go to the approval log, you'll see that we're doing the same thing as before. We date stamp the user's name with the date and the time, so you guys can go in and still see that information. You can still click on any of these line items, and it will take you to that person's time card where you can go in and make edits or changes. Okay, I'm going to go back to the other tab here and close that out. Another change, we've got the comments here as before. Another change is we added the attendance feature. So now if you want to see attendance, you can click on this, and any attendance that's been filled out will show up in here. It's just a summary of the attendance by day, broken down by date. So for our California clients, or anyone that's keeping track of their when they come in and when they're leaving, and if they took a break or not, they can go in and just pull in attendance report right there. All right. We also have employee signatures in here too, so you can actually come in and get your employees to sign off on their time and see their signatures in here too. So that's new on the time approval screen. Up at the top, we have the Excel and the PDF. Now, before you guys would select your PDF, you had the option of well, it wasn't an option. You were just, when you selected the time card option, it would always get exported out into an Excel file. We've done away with that now. So the change that we've made here is to the PDF. It's now when you print out your timesheets, they're always going to be in the PDF format here. You still have the labor detail report as a payroll administrator. All of your crew managers down below also have the Excel spreadsheet. It's relevant only to the crews that they manage. Not too much has changed on the Excel spreadsheet. Same as before. We did include the attendance and some of these other options that you see in here. So you'll see a couple of extra columns in here for that added data, but the format's still going to stay the same. The one big difference here is that you're not going to be exporting your time using this menu. We have a new menu for time export, and that's under Remote Payroll and Labor Export. I'll get to that in a moment. Before we cover that, I just want to point out some other things here. You've got a settings wheel now, which allows you to come in and switch between previous pay period, current pay period. We just put this at your fingertips so that if you want to see the previous week date range always, as a user, you can do that. Also, we've got the pay period in here, the 7 to 14 days. So this is an option that you can do right on the time approval screen. We can click this and go to 14 days, and then go in and do a refresh on our screen here, and that will switch the options to showing a 14-day date range. If I click on the menu in here, you can see that I've got a 2-week date range. So a lot of you that are bi-weekly are going to like that feature, and you can toggle in and out of that on your settings page here. So if I want to go back to 7, I just click it like that, and then just refresh my time card view up at the top. All right, so those are the major changes on the time approval screen. The next thing I want to get into is exporting, because that has changed for everybody, and once you've gone through it once before, or once, you'll be an expert on this area of the system. For some of you, you already are experts, because we're reverting back to the way that we exported time when we first developed hh2 Remote Payroll. We've just enhanced it more. So for some of you that have been clients for the last 6 or 7 years with us, this is going back to our old way of exporting the time. And what I mean by that is, under this new labor export menu, the thing with the new window is that you can't export out your time more than once. It prevents you from doing that up front. So let me explain that in more detail. Let's actually go back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my time approval screen, and I'm actually going to switch this to, let's go in, I'm going to switch this to a 2-week pay period, just so I have more time entries in here. I'm going to refresh the time card. Now, in your labor export menu, none of the time is going to show up unless it's been approved. All right, you can see that we've got some time in here that's been approved from 8/23 to 9/5. All right, so that's the date range that I'm going to use when I'm exporting out my time. I'm going to come over to Remote Payroll. You'll have a new link called Labor Export. The first thing I'm going to do is come up to the top, and I'm gonna go in here and make sure that I've got my date range correct, and it looks like I do. And the reason why I'm not seeing any time in here is I'm actually logged in as an hh2 payroll admin. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to log in as and I'm going to log out of this user and actually log in as a payroll admin, and I'm just going to find out who that is. Here's a quick tip and trick that you may or may not have known about. Under your user setup, under the home page, if you go to user setup and you click on this icon here, You can come in and look at your users, and you can actually go in and look at the permissions that they have in the site roles. I could come in here and I could look at the permissions for each person and see if they're a system admin, but there's even an easier way of doing this. If I click on Remote Payroll and I go to payroll users here, if we go up to the top, I've got these options now. So you don't have that from the home page. You've got it within Remote Payroll. If I go in and I click on Payroll Managers, it tells me all of the people in my company that have Payroll Manager access. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to log in as one of these people instead. Let's go in and let's log in as this person here. And that's going to show us what we need to see on our labor export screen. All right. So if I come in here, let's look at this screen. I'm going to approve this time. I'm going to go in and let's just do an approve all. Actually, I'll switch to the 2-week again, just so I have some more time entries in here, and then I'll approve everything. Now you're not going to see anything in the time approval screen unless you've gone in and approved the time entries. If you haven't approved time entries for whatever reason, then they're not going to show up. Okay, just the green time. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to do the approve all, and now I've got it looks like 96 hours over here of time entry. And now when I go in, and we're going to change our date range 9/6 to 9/19. It looks like. So if I go into labor export and I switch this view up, let's go to 9/6 to 9/19 and apply the filters. I've got some time in here. It's showing 96 hours because that's what I've approved on my time approval page. So this time that we're seeing here, the beauty of this screen now is that if I export this out or I include all of this time entry in my export, I can't mistakenly go back in and re-export it again. It clears this out of your export window so that you don't duplicate up on time entries by accidentally exporting someone's time out of the system more than once. So for those of you that are doing multiple exports, you've got multiple pay periods, like some of you have weekly, bi-weekly, and even monthly pay periods within your company. And before, you would have to keep track of the time that you previously approved so that you wouldn't accidentally go in on a bi-weekly and accidentally export out someone that you've previously done it for on a weekly basis, or even same thing for a monthly person. Now that's impossible to do. All I need to do is just hit export transactions. Notice this included button on the side. If I want to exclude someone from not showing up in my export, I can just exclude them like this, and now they won't show up. They'll continue to stay in the system, and then when if I was doing a weekly export or something, or whatever, if I needed to export someone out later on, maybe it's the difference between an hourly and a salary person, I could do that. I could even go into the settings and I could use the filters. I could even go into the settings here, the date range box, and I could use the filters to filter on pay group or payroll groups. Same filters that you've had in the past, but just makes it easier when you're exporting your time. So if you want to include everybody in this, you just hit export transactions. Now you can see that they're gone. Okay, it says export complete. Click the history icon at the top left corner of this page to view historical exports. Undo exports or retrieve your export files. So now that I've exported this out, my file is right here. So you're going to right click and do your save target as or open it up. If I click on this, I have my files automatically download to my machine in my text pad. My text pad, I just deleted it off my machine. That's why I'm getting that error. But you guys are going to still continue to open this up and save it to your computer the same way that you're doing it now. You can either right click, do a save target as, or you can open it up and then do a save as, whatever you want. There's nothing that's changed in regards to the way that you import that into Timberline. This is your file. But now that we've exported this out, those entries are no longer in my export menu. So I can't export them out again. All right, the only way that I'd be able to export out these entries a second time is to go back into the history wheel up at the top here, and it shows me an archive of my my exports, a history of all of my exports that I've done, the total number of employees. And if I want to undo it and I want to roll that back into the system, then I just click undo and I accept the confirmation here, click OK on it. Now my time entries are back in the system, and then I can export them out again. All right. If you ever lose a hard drive or misplace your export file, we keep a history of it always in hh2, so you can always get the file right here and resave the file anywhere you want on your hard drive. So that is the export menu. I love this new menu. It's quick. It's much faster. I don't know if you guys noticed how fast it was to export out the transactions, but you can see it was instant, whereas before in your current version, you'll see it generate and you have to wait, and it has to go through every single group and every single employee in your drop-down menu before it'll actually do the export. This is almost near instant. It doesn't matter how many employees you have. You click it, you're going to see your download file pop up. You'll just go in and save that and then import that into Timberline. The other thing that we've done here too to help accommodate for some people that have multiple data folders or that are doing multiple exports is we've given you the ability to go into your settings and choose from different format views. So these are the different ways or the ordering of the fields that get how the data gets exported out of the system. I normally set this up for you during implementation and you have one, but if you've ever wanted to go in and export data out using a different format view or in a different order for like ADP or someone like that and provide the data to some other third-party program in a different format, you can do that now in here. And you just want to make sure that you go in and just a tip and a trick, your integration format views are right here under Remote Payroll. You can go in, you can create new format views, and those are all accessible under your labor export. Okay, so if you need to do multiple exports with different views, select them under settings. What I want to get into now is a couple of the major setting changes that we've made in the system under Remote Payroll. And you're going to find a lot of these under Remote Payroll and Payroll Groups. Okay, so one of them that I think most of you are going to want to go in and change at a crew level is to come in, click on the crew, and make cost codes required when you're coding to a job. So where we do that now is under the settings of a payroll group. Notice that the settings now run on a vertical path here rather than along horizontally where they currently are for a lot of you right now. So when you guys update to the new version, you'll see all of your settings running along the side here. And this settings window, if we scroll down on a job cost codes right here, it's fine that it's enabled, but if I want to make it a requirement that I always have to have a cost code when I'm coding time to a job, if I come in here and select the option, there's an option now that says required with job. All right, I did this on Donald Black's crew. So what that means now that I've made that change, if I actually go to his timesheet and I actually try and code time, let's go to his crew. If I were to code time in here, notice there's an asterisk next to cost code. So if I select a job and I just happen to forget to select a code and I go to add the timesheet, it now forces me to put that cost code in. It says you must specify the cost code with job. So I'm sure some of you guys are praising us right now for that, because that was a huge ordeal and issue for many of you, especially newer companies coming online with us that were just getting rolled out through implementation. It was always a learning curve for people to not forget that with having unspecified code turned on. It was causing some issues. So be aware of that. So that's one setting I wanted to point out to everyone. Some other things that you'll be getting into. I won't go through all of these. I won't waste all of your time. You can go through. These are a lot of these settings in here were one-offs, or what we consider to be one-offs when we implemented you on Remote Payroll. So you don't necessarily need to come in and learn all of this over again or change it. There's just a couple of things maintenance-wise that you're going to want to be aware of. And I'm going to show you where your user accounts get created. I'm also going to show you 2 ways to add users to a crew, because everyone that's going to be logging in to either code time or approved time in the system, they need to be a part of a crew. So I want to show you where that's at. So the first step, when you're creating user accounts, you're still going to create them under Remote Payroll and Payroll Users. I like to do it here. You can go into the user setup under the house button under user setup, but I like to go into Remote Payroll and Payroll Users. All right. The first thing that I'm going to do in here is I'm just going to click on the plus button to show you that this format's changed. When you're creating user accounts now, we require everyone to have these fields filled out. So one of the changes to that is that you do have to have an email address. We're in a day and an age now where everybody should have an email. There's really no excuse for it. So even if they don't have a company email, get a personal email, a Hotmail, Gmail, whatever it is, just so that notifications can be used with these, and also password resets and whatnot. The other thing too is a password complexity by default. It needs to contain at least 6 characters, 1 capital letter, and 1 number. So if you're filling this stuff out, you would just come in, put in whatever you want here. Notice I got a capital letter and a number, and then we would just come in and fill out the first name, last name, and we'll just put in a random email in here. When I go to create the user, you're going to get a warning box if you don't put in a phone number in here. It's okay. It's not a required field. We create the user, and now once we create the user, we've got all the different permissions that are here. Something that you always need to do with the user account is you need to map the user up with their employee ID. This is the only way that we know that this user is who we say that that user is in Timberline. This is only required if the user that you're setting up is going to be entering in their own time. If they're a manager also filling out time for other people, but they're still going to enter in their own time, you need to map them up. So you go to user mappings, and you would just select the employee in your list. I don't happen to be an employee in this database, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to leave that alone. What I want to show you, though, is that from here you can set this person, this user, up as a crew manager if you've already got the crew set up. If they don't belong, if they're not a crew manager, the next thing that you need to do is you need to assign the user to a crew. So where we can do that is if we just come right back to Remote Payroll, and we go to the next link down right here, Payroll Groups. This is where we can come in and we can select any one of these groups and add that user to the group. So if I want to add that user to Don's group, I would just come in here to my employees link, and then I would just find the employee in here, the user account. So I would come in here and find them in here and hit plus, and now that employee is a part of Don's crew. So those are the 2 things that you're going to be doing the most, is adding new users and assigning those users to a crew, whether they're a crew manager or they're a job site manager. If they're a job specific manager like a PM or a super, you're doing that here, okay? So you can come in and you can actually do that right on the user's account. So we go back to payroll users, and I select me. If I was a project manager, I would just come in here and I would select or PM role, depending on which level they are in the approval process, and then I can go through and I can manually assign the jobs that I manage, and that's how the job time gets routed. All right, so that replaces your job management link for those of you that are doing job site specific approval levels. All right, so just make sure that you're selecting superintendent or PM, whichever one you're using. Crew managers right here. All right, that's all I want to cover on that. A couple other things just with the remaining time that I have that I want to point out to everybody is in regards to support now, be aware that you guys have a support icon in the bottom left-hand corner here. It's really important to use this when you're contacting support. We track all of your support incidents that come through. Tina Anderson heads up our support department. She's done a wonderful job on responding to many of you. You know, if you come in here and you click on this icon, it's going to pull up your information in here with your email and your phone number. You can attach the screenshots in here. If you need for us to call you, you can also request that here. We're going to get back to you as soon as we can. Tina's, like I said, she does a fantastic job of reaching out to all of you guys. If she doesn't reach out to you immediately, it's because she's helping someone else out on a phone call or through on somebody else on a support ticket. We say that we'll respond to everybody within 24 hours, but a lot of times we get back to you within the same day. So want you guys to be aware that we want you to use the support ticket system in here. It's the best way to reach out to us. Also, we've been linking in here our instructional videos. We have a YouTube channel out there. A lot of your questions that are going to come up on the new build for some of you. A lot of these questions can already be answered on the videos that we've already provided out there on our YouTube channel. If you click on any one of these videos and you pull them up, tip and trick here is you'll see all of the other videos that we have off on the side, but if you just click right here on hh2 Cloud Services, you can browse all of our videos by product. So Remote Payroll, our Remote Payroll app, you know, and a lot of our other products. It's also a great way if you want to see some of our other products to come in here and browse some of the demonstrations or tutorials on the other products like field service or field reports and whatnot. But please use those and let your employees know about them too. You can bookmark them and a lot of your questions can be answered there. Also, the frequently asked questions, our facts page, we've got that tied in here now too. And if you're an employee, before you contact support, contact your administrator. Your contact for your administrator should automatically be filled out in here for your site when you log in. Again, this is a demo site, so I don't have a lot of this filled out. But if you contact your payroll administrator first, that's going to be your first line of troubleshooting. And then if we need to work with them to provide some additional details or get back with you, we're going to go through your payroll team there first, and then they'll respond to you. And again, you'll just want to use the support ticket system here. I want to thank everybody for their business and for the relationships that we've built over the years with many of you. This new remote payroll version is a fantastic product. We've had great success with rolling it out to a lot of our clients already. We're almost complete with this, and so it's been a fairly smooth transition. We know that you're going to have some questions that come up, and we'll try and tackle those as quickly as we can for you. Again, watch those videos, refer back to this video too and the handouts that we're going to send to you. I've got that labor export screen available. I'm going to pull that up one more time just so that you guys can download it. It's got some information and some hotkeys on here for you guys to print out and use or email to any of the other payroll admins in your company. We'll make this video available to everybody that's on the webinar. We'll also make the handouts available. Don't hesitate to reach out to us if you do have questions. We'll get to those and make sure that the transition for you is smooth and that we answer everything timely for you. All right, that concludes our training session for today. If you have any further questions, feel free to type them out. We won't have time to answer those for you right now through the GoToMeeting, but we are printing those out so that we can get with you guys afterwards and answer any questions that you have. Appreciate your business. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.